let's kick things off with Moonstruck, the 1987 romantic comedy that gave us one of the most iconic lines in film history.
Snap out of it!
The movie we know and love almost looked very different. For one, the film was originally titled The Bride and the Wolf. Not quite the same ring, right? And screenwriter John Patrick Shanley initially imagined Sally Field in the lead role before it eventually went to Cher. Speaking of Cher, she had to fight for her co-star. The studio wanted Peter Gallagher to play Ronnie, but Cher insisted on Nicolas Cage, convinced only he could bring the right amount of chaos to the part. She even threatened to walk away if they didn't cast him. The gamble paid off, and Cage's unhinged energy helped define the film. Fun fact, that wild hand monologue. Cage based his performance on watching the body language of actor Rudolf Klein-Rogge in Fritz Lang's 1927 silent classic Metropolis. But Cher wasn't always confident in the project. Between takes, she actually leaned over to Olympia Dukakis and whispered that she thought the movie was going to be a dud, and that her own performance wasn't any good. Flash forward, and Cher ended up winning both the Oscar and Golden Globe for Best Actress. Dukakis, who was only 15 years older than Cher despite playing her mother, also walked away with the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress. The casting of Dukakis almost didn't happen either. Producers had considered Anne Bancroft and Maureen Stapleton, but both were too expensive for the budget. Casting director Howard Feuer suggested Dukakis, a veteran character actress. She nailed her audition, and the role became career-defining.
Love him, Loretta? Ma, I love him awful. Oh, God, that's too bad.
Not everyone was thrilled during filming, though. Director Norman Jewison was so determined to capture the perfect tension in the kitchen climax scene that he wouldn't let his actors break for lunch until they got it right. The actors' union ended up fining him for it. And even the soundtrack had its own drama. The film originally opened with an operatic score from La Bohème, but test audiences hated it, shifting in their seats, thinking they'd been tricked into watching an art film. Producers swapped it for Dean Martin's That's Amore, and the rest is history. One of the supporting actors also got a surprising career boost. John Mahoney, who played the charming but troubled professor, later credited the role with getting him cast in Frasier. Cher's legendary slap ranked number 96 on the American Film Institute's list of greatest movie quotes, and Moonstruck also made AFI's top 100 funniest movies. To top it off, Roger Ebert honored it on his great movies list, sealing its place as a true classic. Steel Magnolias might look like a sweet southern story about friendship and family, but behind the scenes, it was as dramatic as the film itself. The story began as an off-Broadway play written by Robert Harling. He based it on the real-life death of his sister, Susan Harling Robinson, who passed away in 1985 from diabetic complications after giving birth. The play debuted in 1987, and just 2 years later, it was adapted into the hit film. The title Steel Magnolias has become iconic, suggesting women who are as delicate as flowers, yet tough as steel. Interestingly, the phrase itself isn't explained in the movie. It's only hinted at in 2 throwaway lines about magnolia trees and men being made out of steel. Casting, however, was far from straightforward. Meg Ryan was originally contracted to play Shelby, but dropped out to star in When Harry Met Sally. The role then went to Julia Roberts, who was still early in her career. Before Roberts was chosen, producers even considered Winona Ryder, but decided she looked too young. And some studio execs thought Sally Field couldn't possibly play the mother of a 22-year-old, until Field reminded them she already had a son nearly that age. Another casting surprise was Daryl Hannah as Annelle. Director Herbert Ross initially rejected her, thinking she was too glamorous. Determined, Hannah came back dressed as the awkward Annelle, so unrecognizable that studio security wouldn't even let her in the building. Needless to say, she got the part. Even the role of Weezer had wild origins. When Bette Davis first saw the play, she envisioned herself as Weezer, with Katharine Hepburn as Clairee and Elizabeth Taylor as Truvy. But by the time the film came around, the producers went younger and cast Shirley MacLaine instead.
Crazy, Malin. I've just been in a very bad mood for 40 years.
On set, tensions were high. Director Herbert Ross was notoriously tough on the cast, often telling the women they couldn't act. He singled out Julia Roberts in particular, reducing her to tears. Dolly Parton didn't escape criticism either. After one poor take, Ross asked if she could act. Dolly shot back, "No, but it's your job to make me look like I can."
I've gone on the way I did. I made everybody cry. I'm sorry. You silly. Laughter through tears is my favorite emotion.
Production was based in Louisiana, with the crew and cast mostly staying at a local Holiday Inn. Dolly Parton briefly tried renting a grand plantation house by the river, but when she realized paparazzi were watching her through telescopic lenses, she packed up at 3 a.m. and moved right back into the hotel. Eventually, she relocated to a lakeside house where, funnily enough, her neighbor was Shirley MacLaine. Shirley even asked the realtor, "Would my nude sunbathing cause any problems?" The reply, "Only a traffic jam on the lake."
As somebody always said, if you can't say anything nice about anybody, come sit by me.
As for the actual filming, some moments were one and done. The powerful cemetery scene, for example, was shot in a single take. Sally Field, determined to give her all, screamed into a pillow for hours beforehand so her voice would sound raw and guttural during her breakdown. Despite the chaos, the performances were unforgettable. The movie became a box office hit and cemented itself as a tearjerker classic about friendship, resilience, and love. Proof that sometimes the toughest shoots make the most lasting films. Believe it or not, Mystic Pizza wasn't just a catchy movie title. It's a real pizza parlor in Mystic, Connecticut. Writer Amy Holden Jones stumbled on the shop while vacationing one summer and thought, "This place deserves a story." After the movie came out, the real Mystic Pizza exploded in popularity. Lines wrapped around the block, customers stole menus and signs as souvenirs, and the owners even opened a second location in nearby North Stonington. Eventually, they started selling their own brand of frozen pizzas in New England supermarkets. The film is also famous for giving the world its first taste of Matt Damon. Yep, this was Damon's theatrical debut. He played a small role as Steamer, but here's the kicker. He was up against his best friend and future collaborator, Ben Affleck, for the part. Damon later explained that both of them auditioned and gave strong performances, but he won out due to a technicality. Damon was 17, which meant he could legally work during night shoots as long as his mom was on set. Affleck, only 15 at the time, couldn't. If the roles had been reversed, Damon joked, Affleck might have gotten the break that changed everything. Of course, the real breakout star of Mystic Pizza was Julia Roberts, but she almost didn't land the role. After her first audition, she was told she was good but physically wrong for the character. Determined, Roberts dyed her naturally blonde hair jet black and came back for a second try, and nailed it. In an interview with David Letterman, she even revealed her strategy for standing out in the waiting room. While all the other actresses nervously studied the script, she popped in her Walkman and sang loudly to throw them off. Bold move, but it worked. Not every star said yes, though. Gloria Estefan was offered the role of Daisy Araujo, but she turned it down, saying she wasn't ready as an actress yet. Production itself took place mostly in Connecticut and Rhode Island, with just a few shots of downtown Mystic actually making it into the final film. There were also some off-screen sparks. Julia Roberts was reportedly linked to actor Liam Neeson around the time they worked together on Satisfaction, 1988, and Neeson even visited her on the set of Mystic Pizza. Rumor has it, she also briefly dated a crew member during filming. Meanwhile, Conchata Ferrell, who plays the pizzeria owner, would reunite with Roberts years later in Erin Brockovich. And of course, you can't forget the pizzeria's slogan, "A slice of heaven." A perfect tagline for a film that's become a slice of movie nostalgia.
I wonder... What the hell do you think Leona really puts in that pizza?